How's it going, everyone? This is your Astrology Horoscope for Friday, February 2nd, 2024. I'm astrologer Alex Skyles, and welcome to the Moonbase. I almost said January. Sometimes it's just automatic, right? But it's exciting. I mean, among the astrology, it's like this week has been so deep and very challenging in our relationships this week, for sure. And Moon's in Scorpio, squared Pluto. It's going to square the sun today. It's also making great aspects with Saturn, and it's going to oppose Jupiter. Then it'll sextile Venus and Mars and Mercury. So it's like this Moon in Scorpio here is just a lot of dynamics here. There's a lot of different energies happening all at once. So it's like we can feel stable, but then, we can be unsure. We can not be comfortable in our own skin. It's like with Moon opposing Jupiter, it's like, especially in Scorpio and Jupiter and Taurus, this can bring up a lot of jealousy or envy or, passion. I mean, it's very passionate in a very big way, but it's like there's a lot of really serious things coming up right now. And let's just bring this up too. I think it being February 2nd, we call it Groundhog Day for some fucking reason in America. I don't really know why. The Gaelics called it Imbolc, so really what it is, it's the midpoint between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. So that is the halfway point before we get to spring. So we are halfway through winter, essentially. So we're starting to see the light even more. The days are getting longer. There's more amazing, positive things coming into our lives, especially with what we just went through the past few weeks. I mean, it's been very amazing and intense, and this week has brought so much relationship stuff to the surface as we're really manifesting the bigger picture here. So we got to really say, like, whenever these moments of unsureness or definitely, sorry, my phone rang. Like, whenever things can be unsure, you can not feel stable in a situation or where you're at today, or feel uncomfortable. Jupiter and Taurus wants to feel comfortable. It wants to have all the things, wants to have all the nice, beautiful things, all the food, like, with the difficulties that we have been experiencing the past few days, and it's gonna pass here once we get through this Moon in Scorpio. Like, it's gonna lighten a little bit, but we don't want to, like, just overindulge in things just to, like, deal with things. With this Moon opposing Jupiter, it's like it's very easy to get caught up in overindulgence, right? Like, oh, I'm just gonna eat too much or drink too much or obsess too much with the Moon in Scorpio and squaring Pluto. It squared Pluto, last night. So we don't want to obsess too much emotionally. And at the same time, like, there is this very nice trine to Saturn while the Moon is opposing Jupiter. So, I mean, there is this moment where it's like we're feeling stable, and there are moments of stability today that we're feeling. I mean, we're in Aquarius season, Pluto's in Aquarius, so it's like the moment you feel stable, it's just like, wow, a whole new thing comes in, and it totally shakes you off your course, and you got to readjust, and you got to make adjustments, and, so today's one of these days where it's like we can feel uncomfortable in certain moments, then we can feel totally happy and content, and then we can feel stable, and then when the Moon, like, comes around later through the day and squares over to the sun going into tomorrow, it's like we can feel a little all over the place. Like, this is kind of all over the place energy, so the moon's going to square the sun, like right going into the afternoon. I said tomorrow. I meant the afternoon. I'm sorry. I'm a little tired doing this. But there is this kind of dynamic of, every moment you don't know what you're going to get. So when the moon squares the sun like this, it's like there's definitely this moment where it's challenging us to where we just think we have it all together and we just know for sure, as moon in Scorpio and sun in Aquarius and these fixed signs, like they just know, like I know what's best. I can do it my way. Like this is definitely challenging us and can cause some feelings of instability in the afternoon that are just like really going to challenge where you're stuck and where you think you have it all together, and it's going to really push you to find new ways. That's what the moon squaring Uranus really brings up, and definitely some weird stuff. Like when the moon came into Scorpio squared Pluto, like I had some pretty strange experiences with some people, and definitely some newer people showing up in my personal life. I don't have to get into it, but it's like, just a very odd behavior that I've never experienced before. And I'm just thinking about it. It's like my mind has just been blown, honestly, from some of the things I've experienced, like over the past 12 hours. Like, it's been very strange. It's been exciting, and it's also, there's this like energy of like, wow, like this is a new thing. Never felt this before. This is fucking weird. Like, but it's also challenging me like, wow, I can't control that. Like, I can't like just hold on to that and obsess over it. With the moon in Scorpio, it's like, it was meant to be. There was some divine purpose where things worked out in a certain way, and it was weird and strange, and you can't really explain it, and you can't control it. And it wasn't really what you thought it was at first. And that's okay. Like, we have to let go. When we're dealing with these fixed signs, like the fixed signs have such a hard time letting go of shit. With Pluto in a fixed sign now, its fall position, Pluto much rather be where the moon's at in Scorpio, right? Pluto rules Scorpio. The moon does not want to be in Scorpio. It's in its detriment. So this is definitely a moment where it's like in the early morning, it's like, yeah, we're feeling good. There is a moment of stability. And all of a sudden, when the moon comes and squares the sun, it's like, whoa, what's happening here? Some new and exciting shit to show up. But at the same time, it's like, wow, it can really throw you off a bit. And at the same time, when the moon's squaring the sun, it's making a nice sextile to Venus. So, there can be some common ground here in relationships that we can start finding, but it's definitely going to be in unique ways that are totally unexpected and things that you didn't think of before. Maybe you can find new ways to bring value to the relationship, right? Because that's really what this is all about with Jupiter and Taurus as well. It's like bringing value to our relationships. Like, where are you valuable in your partnerships and in your relationships, especially in the world of with what you're doing in the world. It's like, what's your relationship with your destiny and your purpose, with Venus and Capricorn? How are you expressing your highest value to the world through your destiny and your soul's purpose and divine connection? So there's definitely some, positive things coming up with the moon making this nice or a sextile to Venus, wow, I can bring more value, or I can add more value, or maybe realizing that you're more valuable than, you've led yourself to be. This at the same time, this moon squaring the sun and then the moon sextile Venus, it's like, you could really have some revelations inside of you, that are really going to be coming through, maybe in a challenging way, but really it's all for the better, and it's really actually a support system for you that's maybe seems a little harsh. It's kind of like that that harsh father who has to lay down the rules, but it's all out of love, right? It's like, look, like sometimes you just gotta take the hard road to like see the value for what it truly is, so the blinders can really come off. And in Aquarius season, that's kind of what's happening. It's like things are just getting shaken up so much and so radically, and it's like new things here and there all over the place, and everything seems to be so new and novel right now. And just accepting that like we're riding a massive frequency, a massive new frequency that we've never experienced before. Ever. So this is definitely a very interesting day, and the moon is going to be building up towards this square to Uranus as well, and then it'll sextile Mars as that's happening. So, I mean, right going into tomorrow, or the moon is going to oppose Uranus. So, I mean, there is this like kind of new insight and this new extreme way of thinking, and finding new ways to just really express how you feel in relationships. We've gone through so much the past few days with that moon in Libra. It's like, wow, like there was so much tension and a lot of things came up. And it's just it really comes down to like, what's your value in the relationships that you have, and how you hold on to those relationships. Some relationships, they come and they go, and some really do like make an impact long term. And with Jupiter and Uranus and Taurus, it's like what relationships really are long term. Taurus is forever, right? They always say like if you want to like manifest something that's gonna last a long time, do it when the moon's in Taurus or when planets in Taurus are being aspected positively, right? So Taurus is all about forever. And sometimes this moon in Scorpio is just like, I want it now. Give it to me now. No matter what. I don't care if it's raining outside and we're standing here. I want it now. Under any circumstance. So there is this like kind of highlight today too of like, fuck, like where do I need to be patient? And where can I move quickly? The sun in Aquarius wants to move very fast. The moon in Scorpio wants it now. Uranus in Taurus, it wants to take its time, but then again, it's Uranus. So it's like, well, like you can take it slow and you can move slow and steady, because slow and steady with Uranus and Taurus does win the race. But at the same time, it's always going to shock us into new ways of moving along. And new ways of creating the future that can be very uncomfortable. So it's like, what do I need right now? What do I want right now? And what is going to stay long term? So that can come up a lot too. When the moon today as well, it'll make this kind of hard aspect to Chiron. So it can get a little uncomfortable. I mean, there is this like sense of discomfort today. Like it's gonna start out feeling like, wow, like it's all good. We just went through a lot the past couple days. The moon was wreaking havoc, making very intense aspects to Venus, Mars, and Mercury, and Capricorn. And now, like today, it's like we can feel like, oh, it's all good. Like we're gonna work it out, and then shit just gets shaken up all over again. And then like this hard aspect here, it's like, man, like there are just some things that are really not working out. So it's like with this moon in Scorpio, it's like whatever's not working, whatever it is, especially in relationships, because Libra and Scorpio and Taurus, like it's all about relationships. Like that's what it's been this week. So it's like if there's something, it's just like you gotta like face it and deal with it and not be afraid to just take it head on. And Scorpio likes to just sever and cut ties and just say, fuck it. Like, I'm moving on. Like, I'm moving along. And sometimes that has to happen. And it's all for the better. But at the same time, it's like, there could be some very strange things where you could be projecting things that aren't even real. Like, you get into a state and a state of mind where you start questioning how a person feels about you, or what are they thinking about you, or like you're talking to a person and then you're talking to them for an extended period of time and all of a sudden they stop talking to you and you don't hear from them. It's like, oh, did I say something? Like, what's going on? And then, you start creating these scenarios in your mind that aren't even real, and it can just lead to like, paranoia, or just typical Scorpio, just like erratic, all over the place, volatility. So it's like wherever you get stuck in that place, this moon making this in conjunct to Chiron, it's like, just sever that shit. Because like, no matter what, with Mars and Mercury and Venus in Capricorn, it's like, we are moving to a higher place, and we're putting in the work. We can't be getting caught up in just meaningless waste of time stuff that's not going to create a solid future, and getting caught up in, drama or just immature things, like this moon in conjunct Chiron, it's like it could bring out a lot of things where it just seems not matured, where someone hasn't matured enough, or, saying immature things, right? This is where we want to grow up. I mean, Mars and Mercury and Venus and Capricorn, it's like, it's time to grow up. We've been dealing with Pluto for so long in Capricorn. So it's like, if you haven't grown up yet, it's like, fuck, like, you got to cut that shit off. And this moon in Scorpio is giving us an opportunity to just cut off what no longer needs to be there anymore, And by the time we do get into Saturday, it's like the moon's going to oppose Uranus. So it's like, it's just this constant upheaval, of like, definitely today going into tomorrow, it's like, okay, it's all good. We're stable. It's all good. And then another shakeup comes, and it's like, you deal with that, and then you have to face it, and then things chill. It's like the dynamics, this week are very, like, all over, right? So you just got to be able to write it and make decisions. And also, like, what really helps is to just not get too caught up too far in the future, right? Being present is one of the most important tools right now. However you maintain being present, which isn't easy. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. It's to just be here right now. Even talking through this microphone into this camera, it's like, it's hard. There's so many things going on. So, it's like, well, how can you find ways to just be present and not project too far in the future and get overwhelmed? It can be very overwhelming. It's like, by the time the moon comes into Sag, then we're going to loosen up a bit. I love the moon in Sag. So, I'm not being biased because I am moon in Sag. But it's a much more freer energy. The moon will square Saturn. So as long as we're cleaning out the mess and not getting too sloppy, we're good. So this moon in Scorpio is giving us an opportunity to really sever some shit. Cut it off. Cut the head off the snake, they say, sometimes things have to die, That's what Pluto's all about. This death and rebirth and metamorphosis, So this Pluto and Scorpio is definitely evolving new connections in our life, but also killing off ones that really are not healthy. So every time we see this moon come into Scorpio while Pluto's in Aquarius for the next 19, 20 years, like, Pluto is going to be dispositing the moon with Pluto in Aquarius, making a square to the moon. So it's going to be intense every time. The next 19, 20 years, we're going to have the most intense Scorpio moon action that we'll have. Right? So, I mean, when Pluto is in Capricorn, the moon would sextile Pluto, which is great. Like, definitely getting to the bottom of things and uncovering truth and doing the detective work and really being underneath the surface and getting underneath the shit and getting dirty and getting down to the truth of things. Now it's going to be much more of a challenge when the moon's in Scorpio squaring Pluto in Capricorn. So, and much more intense. So, that's pretty wild. I haven't thought about that. That's and there I am thinking much further out than being present right here, right now. So, let's pull a card. I didn't pull one. I usually pull one before we start. Well, Seven of Swords. It's like my least favorite card. So, it's like you don't want to be getting caught up in the circus. You don't want to be getting caught up in the drama and the chaos, because there has been a lot of that this week in our, close relationships. It's like we want to stay focused, stay on that Mars and Capricorn path and not get too caught up in it, because like there are going to be people out here trying to get in between your positive manifestation of your future and having a healthier, better life. So don't get caught up in the weird shit, and don't let anybody take it from you as well. Like it's yours, like your destiny and your purpose is yours. No one else can take that from you. So, and that's where the moon in Scorpio can really start projecting way too much onto the future, or coming up with scenarios in your mind and in your head of like, getting paranoid, like, like maybe this isn't going to work out, or maybe this person like is plotting against me or something, getting paranoid. Like this is very much that. And with the moon in Scorpio. So it's like, gotta stay balanced. Gotta stay on top of it and stay focused. Mars and Mercury and Venus and Capricorn, like this is where the focus lies amongst, the challenges and somewhat of the chaos. There's a lot of chaos going on in the world. There's so much wild stuff. It's exciting though. I'm fucking stoked for how the dynamics of the broader scale of things in the world are starting to shift, and what people are really willing to say now that they weren't willing to say with Pluto and Capricorn, and people banding together, like you see across Europe, like all the farmers fucking coming out and standing up to their governments who want to take away their rights. It's like, that's what Pluto and Aquarius is all about, is when the people finally unify and wake up and demand truth and equality and, humanity being treated fairly, because that's what Pluto and Capricorn exposed. And definitely at the end of Pluto and Capricorn, and I'm saying this now because Pluto is going to go back into Capricorn. It's like so much has been exposed, and there's so much being exposed within ourselves that we weren't aware of. That's what Pluto does. That's what Scorpio is all about, so as much exposure that's happening in the world, our unconscious within ourselves is also doing exactly the same. And that's what you see, where people are waking up on so many levels right now. Whether it's waking up out of a sleep of finally being aware of what the hell's been going on, or finally waking up to where they've just been asleep in their own lives too. So, I'm also, willing to say that like by the time Pluto does come into Capricorn, it's going to be like a final boss battle, a final showdown. And it will be a big shake-up and a big awakening, even more so. So it's really exciting to see, the collective starting to actually have a real awakening. Because I will say, I think a lot of people felt this way too in 2012, right? When Neptune came into Pisces, there were people waking up spiritually, right? And a lot of people who were waking up at the time were like, oh, this is the moment where humanity all wakes up, right? And it's going to be a massive awakening and this and that. And definitely in the spiritual community, it's been like, damn, the ideas of what waking up is so different in so many areas, but now it's not that way. There seems to be this commonality of what people are saying and speaking up about and realizing. Like, it's not just like different sects of spirituality or new age stuff or truther stuff or whatever of like, oh, I'm waking up. You know, there's been so many forms of that. Now it's like alchemizing into like one peak point of what and where people are waking up to and from. So there's like this common thread, and that's very Aquarius, where it is like, it's like the hive mind, right? It's like we're all starting to feel and see the same things, and it can be telepathic. Maybe, I mean, that's what they say about, that's what the New Agers say about the age of Aquarius, right? It's like, oh, we're all going to become telepathic, and language is going to cease to exist. You know, maybe there's some truth to that on a practical level of, you know, that the internet is allowing us to connect in a deeper way. You can see people's patterns on social media, right? Like, I definitely noticed that, you know, years ago. It's like, damn, you could really, like, just by scrolling through your feed, you could, you know, I'm not on Facebook anymore, but when I used to be on Facebook, like, you could see people's behavior patterns and relationship patterns, especially, right? So there is that kind of telepathic, fourth dimensional thing that's happening to us because of technology and how we're becoming more connected. So how people are starting to wake up, like we're all starting to feel and see the same things. Because over the past 12 years, waking up has been many different definitions. And it always will be, but now there's starting to be this common thread. So I'll stop it there. I hope you guys have a wonderful Friday, and I appreciate all of you for being here. I'm so happy to be here sharing this with you guys, and I appreciate every person who leaves a comment and sends me an email or whatever and wants to, you know, ask questions or have a conversation. I really appreciate it, you know. So, yeah. Go to the description in this video. All the links to all of my platforms, Instagram, Spotify, the TikTok, which I don't really fuck around with that much. Like, it's kind of a weird place. My website, my reading sale is still going on. I have one slot. So if anybody wants it, it's there. The link is in the description to this video. So y'all have a wonderful Friday, and I will see you for the weekend when the moon comes into Sag. So we're going to be coming out of the relationship stuff that we've been experiencing this week because it's been so intense. So have a wonderful Friday, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.